Hello, hello. It is me, and I am so excited about today's faith and fiction chat. It's going to be a little different than my previous chats have been, and I'm just going to wait until CK joins us. We are going to be chatting today about her faith and her fiction, and I'm super excited about it. Hello, Abigail. We're waiting for CK to jump on, and hopefully that will be soon. I did not do a faith and fiction chat last week because I was in Indianapolis. I was there for the Gospel Coalition Women's Conference, which happens every 2 years, and that was so amazing to go to that and to be a part of nearly 9,000 women who were there to learn, who were there to actually learn how to work within a women's ministry in their church. There were so many things, and they were teaching out of the Psalms. So it was so good. And the worship was out of this world. It was absolutely amazing. Also, Shane and Davy Flowers were leading worship. And so it was so beautiful to be able to worship with so many other women. It was just kind of a foretaste of heaven. So, yeah, I didn't do a faith and fiction chat last week, but I am doing one next week. And just to let you guys know before CK gets on, this is a little different than my previous interviews because my primary focus with this is pretty much to chat with Christian authors about their Christian fiction novels. And today I'm chatting with a Christian author, but her novel is a young adult East Asian inspired fantasy novel that is not Christian. And also there are some things from like the Eastern mysticism, Eastern religion kind of things involved, but you'll see how we get to talk about that. And let me see if I can get her in here. It will be soon. But this book that we're going to be talking about today is called Scion of the Dragon. And while it's not inherently Christian, and it mentions chi and chakras and that kind of thing, along with other East Asian themes, I can see where her own faith has been woven into the fibers of this story. So hopefully, there she is. Hello, CK. She's going to jump in, and let's see. So you should just be able to ask me to join or accept the invite, CK. And it should put you on the screen. So there should be something that says ask to join. Oh, it's saying that you're unable to join. Let me see if I can figure this out. I just sent you an invite. So let's see if that will work. Excuse me.
Hey,
There you are. Hello. Thank you so
how are
much
you?
for joining. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Tell me about your hat.
My hat. Oh, so this is the It Is Finished hat. I wear it in most of my videos. So it's just a good reminder.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So, sorry. I was not expecting this morning.
I
So,
understand.
CK, I have talked a little bit about your genre that you write and the fact that you are a Christian author.
hmm
Um, and that this interview is a little different than what I normally do, because normally I focus on Christian fiction. And I did mention that while your book is not inherently Christian, I did find like some Christian themes woven throughout
Oh,
it. And so we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I wanted to start out with you live on the East Coast. Is that correct?
I do.
Okay. And you are married and have a fur baby, right?
I have 3 dogs.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And then you have, which should be obvious to anybody that follows you, but you are very much a martial artist and you train in several different disciplines. Can you tell us about them?
You're gonna get me on my soapbox, man. It's my love language there. Yeah, I have been training martial arts for about a decade now. I have loved it since far before I was able to do it. But my primary, or I guess my base discipline, is Guillermo Arnis training, which is a Filipino style. It has a little bit of everything. It's kind of, think MMA, but from the Philippines. And then I also train in traditional jiu-jitsu, so more standing work than groundwork. And more recently, I have been sent by my sensei to go train with his sensei in a traditional karate.
Nice. My kids actually have all done jujitsu up until COVID, and then
Hmm.
everything in California shut down. And
Right.
so now we're finally able to get them back in because before it was just we were so busy or we just didn't have
Hmm.
the ability to get them in. So the two youngest, Benny, and then our 16-year-old daughter are going to get back into jujitsu. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That's awesome. And I signed the book for Benny, right?
Yes, you
Okay,
did. Yeah,
I
and
thought
we've been enjoying it. He
so.
has a
Good.
question for you, but he is out riding his bike right now. He
Okay.
wants to know what CK stands for.
CK. Okay, that's a great question. So CK stands for Cyrene, which is just peace, which is a big theme that I have quested for in my life. And then K, I took Catherine because my best friend really wanted me to, so I took CK.
Okay.
And it's modeled after both C.S. Lewis and G.K. Chesterton. So I kind of played off of that.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. And then you have such a young face, but you
Yes, I
you
know.
have a master's degree in psychology. Is that
I
right?
do. That is right.
Okay. Is that what you went to college with the intention of doing, or did that come later?
So, funny story. I went to college with the intention of getting in a teaching English as a foreign language degree, but they only offered it as a master's degree. And I was about so then I had to figure out what I wanted to do for my bachelor's. And so for my bachelor's degree, I went for a double major in psychology and Bible. Well, I got to about my last year when they told me if I had wanted to do the 5-year program of teaching English, I had to take classes that would have started like 2 years ago, right?
Okay.
So I was like, well, I guess that's not what I'm doing because I can't do that anymore. So I switched gears and got my just master's in psychology. Found out I really love doing trauma counseling, and so that's what I've been spending my time doing.
So when you say trauma counseling, what kind of cases do you deal with?
Just about anything.
Okay.
I work for a retired chaplain. So most of the cases that come through are military or military related, but we get a lot of first responders, and then if you're good at what you do, anybody will come. So I've seen a little bit of everything.
We've dealt with a little bit of trauma in our life with having adopted kids through foster care. And
Definitely.
granted, they were all very young when we got them. The oldest was 18 months when we got him. So not so much of the trauma that older kids see,
Right.
but definitely that there's still a trauma there from being separated from your biological mother at the very least. And
Hmm.
so, yeah. And then we lost our oldest son in 2019. So
I'm so
we,
sorry.
thank you. We have dealt with the trauma of that. So it's just, yeah, I feel like it's such a great thing to have. Now, is it Christian counseling or
So
just,
what I do is EMDR, but when I do my intakes, I ask if people want to integrate their faith into it. And if they
okay,
say yes, then we 100% integrate faith. If they say no, then as the board directs, we don't integrate anything.
okay. So it's definitely a need these days, I feel like, probably more so than ever before. So thank you for being in that field. That's so
Thank you.
important. All right. So we know that you love martial arts, but what do
Yeah.
you enjoy doing when you're not doing martial arts and you're not writing?
Okay, well, I'm not. So you've taken my whole life away at that point. No, I spend a lot of time in the gym. I spend a lot of time with my dogs. Obviously, I have a service dog, and so we spend a good amount of time training me and him just to make sure he's up on his skills and I'm up on mine.
Okay.
Um, I really love a good campfire. So we've built a little campfire pit in my backyard that we use when the weather allows.
I love that. We got my husband a fire pit for Father's Day last year,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
we've used it twice. So I'm really hoping that this summer we're going to be able to use it a lot more because, yeah, I love a good campfire too. That's amazing. Okay, let's talk about your writing. So,
Why?
when did you get started with writing, and has it been something you always wanted to do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have always been fascinated by stories, not necessarily writing, but telling stories, hearing stories, sharing stories. Whether, that could be in any form of media. I've just been enamored with stories, particularly of people that I can attach to. So, like people that I can understand a little bit or that I want to understand more. I started writing in middle school. I got invited to an online, like, bounce off of each other, tell a story. I think it was Hunger Games or something. I don't know,
Okay.
but it was that's kind of how it all started.
Okay. And do you have a particular book or author that maybe you would say helped shape you as a writer?
One of the authors that I think has shaped me most is G.K. Chesterton. He's a classical Christian author. He is very interesting because he was an atheist, and then he went contemporary, and then he actually died a Catholic. So very interesting path that he took.
Yeah.
But when he wrote the book Orthodoxy, I was I was dreading having to read it because it sounds so boring. It really does, right? But then I picked it up and I started reading the chapter titles, and they were things like Elfland and the Suicide of Insanity, and just like crazy titles. I was like, well, I guess this might not be so bad. And the whole book is just filled with humor while it discusses these really deep, really hard topics. And that, while what I'm writing isn't nonfiction, I want to tackle both the depth and the humor with it.
Okay. Okay. That kind of book, yeah. Just based on the title, I would probably be like, yeah, I'll pass.
Yes.
But it's good to know that it's got some more depth and interest in it than just the dry liturgy, I guess. All
Mhm.
right. So let's kind of flip a little bit and let's talk about your faith. How did you come to know Jesus?
So, how did I come to know Jesus? That is a long path. I think all of us are still on the path of how to come to know Jesus, right? But while I did grow up in a Christian family, it wasn't the simplest thing for me. We adopted three of my siblings when I was very young, and one of them actually killed my mom. And so at that point, I was
Sorry.
I was obviously devastated, as you might
Mhm.
imagine.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of questions about you know, how a good God could let something like that happen, how why good people suffer, why the world is the way that it is it even worth, is the world even worth saving? Hard questions that maybe
Yeah.
we don't often talk about or aren't willing to talk about. We like to talk about the good people, but not so much how to live with the bad ones.
Yeah.
And so while I struggled through that, and I did struggle, it took a number of years working through that anger and admittedly the hatred. Not so much for my brother. He was very sorry for what he did after he got saved. So I didn't struggle so much with hating him, but just the world that we've created, that stuff like that can happen, and you just like it just does. I think I was 10 years old, and I considered myself a good person, or at least tried to be. And I got in a pretty nasty scrap with another kid over something very dumb. And I remember going home after that and thinking about, I just had this image in my head of watching him run away crying, right? And I thought to myself, I'm maybe not as good of a person as I think I am. And I need grace and I need forgiveness. And that's when it hit the depth of grace and how good it felt to be at peace after being forgiven, even though there are bad things out there and we do bad things, and at times we are bad people, but that Christ will walk with us through that.
Yeah.
And I think that was a major defining moment for me.
It sounds like it. I'm so thankful for his grace because I think that all of us overestimate like our situation, our own condition, right? We think we're so much better than we are, but we're really way worse than we are. And you know, that alone is so freeing because, you know, somebody can come at us with accusations and say, well, you know, you're such a jerk because you can't even get past this sin, or you still sin in this way. And you're like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely.
You know, so what can anybody say against that? It's like, yeah, I am a sinner. I am a wretch. I am someone who desperately needs a savior. And it's not just that, like you said, it's a journey of coming to know Jesus. Like, it's not something that happens once and then we're done. It's something that is an ongoing process of us putting our sin to death and becoming more like him. So I love how you put that. That's so good. So how do you think your Christian faith shapes your storytelling?
That's a really good question. First, Allie, I see you in the comments, and I'm glad that you see that in my writing. I want to know more about what you mean by that, though. But as for your question, how does it shape my writing? I want to write stories that speak to real human experience, but that also point to hope. So we might be skipping ahead a little bit here, but in Scion of the Dragon, there isn't, you know, it's not like C.S. Lewis. There isn't a solid Christ figure in the book. There's just a lot of people doing the best they can, and it's not very good. And so with him, I really wanted to show a story of somebody who is searching for light in a dark world. That's where I feel I spent a lot of my time growing up, and when I was reading YA, I felt like I was really searching for light in a very dark world. And so I want to speak to that experience in a way that you can see the light and you can see the hope, but it's not discounting how hard things can be and how much struggle people can go through.
I really appreciate that because I don't like reading a book that is just nothing but fluff. Like, I want to read a book where I see a struggle and I see someone work through that struggle through their faith, even in other books that aren't Christian themed, I want to see, something that's gritty, and there's that working through of that until they come out on the other side and go, I'm better for this. I did this, and
Right.
having the hope in it. So I really appreciate that. So speaking of Scion of the Dragon, I still haven't finished it yet. I was trying so hard yesterday, but
Well, where are
um,
you at?
oh
Maybe
goodness,
without too many spoilers.
I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm at where Sanav and Karima go back to try and get an audience with the Emperor.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's
So,
where I'm
so
at.
you're in the middle of a bunch of banter.
Yeah. Yeah, so where he didn't come as Sanav, he came as Captain Arun instead. And so
hmm
um I'm I cannot wait to finish it because I want to see the redemption in all of this, and I want to see the bad guy get their what do you call it? Like, I want to see them get, I want to see him get justice for Master Hito, but I want to see the bad guy get their due, I guess. So,
Right.
because that,
I think you'll
that's
be pleased.
okay. I mean, there's such a struggle between good and evil in this book, and it's so clear, even among the lineages. Um, there's some that you can tell are inherently good, and then there's at least one that is like, no, he's so bad. He's literally such a snake. So I was just like, oh, he needs to, no, no. So yeah, there's that struggle there. So what made you want to write this book?
This book, this is a really personal book for me. I There was a period of time when my sensei was in pretty pretty dire health. We weren't really sure what's wrong, and he was declining, and it was scary to watch. Especially somebody that, I mean, he was a SWAT team leader, a sniper, a leader among cops. Just somebody that I've seen so many people look up to, and that I've looked up to, have a health issue that they can't work through. It made me start thinking about mortality, and unfortunately, it made him start thinking about it too, because he started talking to me like about things, when I'm gone, and these are the things I want you to be working on so that you can like take up my mantle and be a teacher for the younger students and stuff, which was really scary for me.
Imagine.
I've only been doing martial arts for, I don't know, maybe like 9 years at this point, and he's been doing it for 40. I'm like, who am I to take up your mantle, right? And then there were other people in the situation that I felt didn't step up to help him in the ways that they should, that didn't show up as much as they should, or in ways that I wanted to see them show up. And of course, some of that's my stuff, putting my stuff on other people that I wanted them to show up. But whether right or wrong, I had a lot of frustrations about people that I think should have been more, I don't know, just shown up more as his friends. And so that's really where the story came out of, is as Sanav, this heir, is taking up the mantle, holding the torch for the Empire far too soon, before he's ready, and everybody knows it's before he's ready, but he's doing everything he can to honor his master, his sensei, and yeah, that's where that came out of.
Okay. Do you feel that there's kind of because I can kind of see a parallel between his journey and even your journey, you know, you said, I have only been doing this for this amount of time, and he's been doing this for forever. Do, can you see kind of a parallel between how we can feel inept when it comes to our own faith, like our own walk with the Lord? Like somebody maybe asks us at church, well, can you teach this? And we're like, I'm not so good at that. You know, can you
Yeah,
see a
teach on
parallel?
patience.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, I can. And that comes up a lot in the second book, which
Okay.
I'm working on, the last of the developmental edits coming up here. But definitely there's a parallel there where when you feel like, when I feel like in my faith, I am being put in a position where I need to work on something or lead in something that I'm just not very good at. It's usually something to do with patience or waiting, or being still, you know, things like that. I'm not very good at.
I get it. I tell you, my daughter yesterday said in the room with my husband and I both, she said, Lord, give me patience. And my husband was like, maybe you don't want to be praying for that. I remember that my mom had prayed for patience uh, when I was much younger, and she ended up getting pregnant with one of my brothers, who was probably her most trying child. Like the things that he got into, just constant. And so it's like, okay, do I really want to pray for patience? But also I understand where you're coming from, because I've been asked by my pastor's wife to um, help, like, facilitate our new expansion in our women's ministry. And I'm just like, I feel so ill-equipped for this, but I also know that the Lord equips us for the things that he calls us to. So we have that in us. Okay, so which character was the hardest to write, and why do you think that is?
Sanav was the hardest to write. I know my main character, right? So I actually, when I started writing Scion of the Dragon, it was third person, and I got, you know, maybe 5 or 10,000 words in, and I was like, I can't stand, I can't stand this guy and this perspective. What is going on? And I realized Sanav he doesn't emote, he doesn't say anything about like what he's going to do. He just does it. And
Yeah,
so I had to switch to first person, because otherwise you had no idea that like there were thoughts going on back here of why he's doing the things that he's doing. And even those thoughts are not enough for me. I would rather much more thought out thoughts before he makes his decisions, but who am I? But he is definitely the hardest to write, just because he really is indomitable, even to me, his writer.
okay. Do you feel like he has a little bit too much arrogance and pride?
Oh, yes, because he is absolutely far too confident in himself. And I think that shows up really well. I'll try to summarize this without spoilers, but when he thinks he's accomplishing his goal, like yeah, Abigail, a little. He thinks he's gotten to the point where he's about to achieve everything, and at the very first step, he just gets annihilated, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody appreciated that moment because he deserved it.
Yeah. Um, I think that, so there was a part in here where, um, so for example, Sanav was talking with Jael. Is that how you pronounce it?
I say it's Zale, but it's not a big
Jael.
deal.
Okay. Where he said, Master Hito saw leadership as servitude. I don't know of anyone else who sees it in such a backwards light, but there's something far more noble about it, don't you think? And this was where where it made me think of Mark 10:44, where
Mhm.
it's the Jesus's disciples, James and John, were like, hey, Jesus, when you go to be in your kingdom, can we have these places of honor on your right and left? And they kind of fought about who was going to be where. And he
Mhm.
told them, whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And I feel like, that's such a clear picture of humility and selflessness. And I feel like that was kind of what Sanab was trying to get across to Jael. But he also still struggled with like the pridefulness and the selfishness. It was kind of a constant battle with him, I think, right?
Oh yeah, and I've had people ask. They've mistaken that the the dragon lineage is a Christian lineage, and that is never the intent at all. This comes up a lot in the next book. So the second book really dives into the origin and the history as he's trying to find this other mythical lineage of power.
Okay.
But in the first book, the dragon is probably the most noble of the master lineages. I think that's probably a fair statement to make. But it is not a Christian lineage.
Okay.
So you can see the influence. It's kind of, I think of the dragon lineage, this might show my own arrogance, but a little bit like America, and that it was founded on Christian principles, but it is not necessarily a good place or a good government or a good anything. It's the
I don't feel
people.
like there's any arrogance there at all. I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I view the dragon lineage. Is
Okay.
very influenced by what I would consider a more Christian lineage that shows up in the next book.
Okay.
But it is in and of itself is not Christian.
Okay. And speaking of lineages, I was it was so funny because I was thinking like Kung Fu Panda, right? And
Sure.
and how Poe was making his journey and trying
Yeah.
to figure out his chi and all of that. But I was picturing animals as
Mm.
these people, as these lineages, right? I was picturing them as animals, and then it was like, no, but they're humans. But then some of your descriptors made them sound like animals, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
so interesting because Shintaro, he slithered into the room with Isamu, his master. And
Right.
then there was a point where Master Feiyu hopped, and I was like, okay, that sounds very leopard-like. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it was very interesting because I'm like, okay, wait, are they people or are they animals? Which is it? So it was
Right.
kind of
And
cool.
that's a comment I've gotten a lot. I think I think part of it is because of Kung Fu Panda. It paved the way for that, I guess.
Yeah.
There are quite a few descriptors in there that I specifically put early on to make sure people knew like these were humans. But they're really easy to read over. I read over descriptors all the time, so I
Yeah.
don't feel any judgment towards that. But I also wanted them to feel like the animals that they're based off of. So I used a lot of, like you said, like he slithered into the room. Those are things that you wouldn't really think about other people using in a different book, but because
Yeah.
they're animal lineages, and then it's not helped by the fact their magical powers or their key powers do give them animal traits at times.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally picture Jay as being a rhino, and I could totally picture Baihu as being a tiger. Like it was so easy to picture it in my mind. But then I saw things like hands and arms and, like those things
Right.
definitely depicted them as humans. Even like there was one description of, I think, Master Feiyu where his you talked about his black hair that was peppered with gray.
Mhm.
So it was like, okay, no, this is human, but it's like I'm picturing it as both. So that was really interesting. So I wanted to talk about a couple of other ways that I saw your faith come out in the book. And one of them was where during the parade or after the assault at the parade,
Mm-hmm.
um, Sanav had been injured, and so had Baihu. And as Master Kashvi was passing by to get to the others, in particular, I don't remember the Tiger Master's name.
The Are you talking about by whose master?
Yes.
That's a great question that I should know. It starts with a K. So this is a little behind the scene. His name changed like 4 times
Oh,
before the
okay.
end. So if I gave a name, it would be the wrong one. I know that that's earlier on though. Let's see.
It's in the front of the book. You have the lineages in the front of the book, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I also appreciate that. It's helpful for me. Kabir, Master Kabir.
Kabir, that's right. That's right. Okay, so she was on her way to helping Master Kabir, who had been incredibly wounded, like mortally, right? And so as she passed by, she placed a hand on Baihu and on Sanav, and their wounds began to heal immediately. And that brought me to where there was the woman with the issue of blood, and
Hmm.
she reached out and touched the hem of Jesus's garment and was healed. And he had felt power go out of him for that healing. He knew, I mean, Jesus
Right.
knew because he was all knowing, but that it just made me immediately think of that because she just touched them. Like she didn't even speak to them. She just kind of laid her hand on their shoulder and not even on the wound, and they began healing. So that was pretty cool to see that. And
Hmm.
then in the part where they had gone back to the fortress, um,
Hmm.
and Jael was healing and recuperating, and Sanav found out that he had strapped him to his back. Like I see Jael as like maybe a young teenager. He may
Hmm.
be older. I don't know. To me, it felt like he was around 12 or 13.
He's about
Um,
12, yeah.
Okay, so for him to have strapped Sanav to his back to climb up the sheer face of that cliff, like, I hope I'm not giving any spoilers, but um, that was pretty cool because Sanav asked him why he had sacrificed himself, sort of, by saving Sanav's life when he had no friends there and he had no stake in doing so because he was from a different lineage. Like, he didn't understand why Jael did this. And Jael kind of just shrugged it off and said that he'd do it again if it came to it. And
I love him.
Sanav responded with, this is what Sanav said. I sacrificed everything to save my lineage. I laid down my life for it, and I would have done far more. I still will. But you have your own lineage. You should be off finding an heir and building your numbers. And then in the narrative after that, where he wasn't speaking aloud, he was basically asking why anyone would sacrifice their lineage for another. He couldn't understand it, but that's basically what Jesus did, but better, right? He
Of
gave his
course.
entire life for people who wouldn't love him ever, for people who would
Hmm.
never love him on their own, who wouldn't give their lives for him, and for people who were enemies with God. And so it made me think of John 15:13, greater love hath no man than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. So I
Hmm.
loved seeing those little glimpses that made me think back to scripture and, to seeing like Jesus in this story, even though it's not a Christian story. Did you do this intentionally, or did they naturally flow from you because of your faith in Jesus, do you think?
I think a little bit of both. I take writing very seriously as far as a faith aspect because I want to make sure whatever I put out there is in good faith. And so there's a lot of prayer that goes into it. So I think some things naturally come out. But that was one of those moments that I intentionally wanted to show how absurd it is for somebody to give their life for somebody that will never be able to repay them, right?
Yeah.
There's no way, it wouldn't matter what Sanav could possibly do for Zale. He could never repay Zale stepping in the midst of 5 lineages that could end him in a moment, right? There's just nothing he could possibly do. And so as Sanav struggles with that, like, he was brought up on these Christian principles, but when he's really tested on them, they don't make sense.
Yeah.
And so that was intentional.
You did that so well. That it just, like, I don't think I've ever really read a book like that where, it wasn't like, if somebody who's not a Christian is reading it, they're not going to pick up on that, obviously. But somebody who is a believer and has spent some time with the Lord and in their Bible, they're going to go, oh, wait, this sounds really familiar. So
Right.
good job on that. I mean, you just did that so, so well. Okay. You talked about the next book. This is a work in progress. When can we expect to see it? And do you have a title yet?
Yes. So next year is my plan. Okay. I hope that I'm working very hard to be able to open a Kickstarter in November. And again, that's actually, I put on our post, I guess, that I was intending to give a sticker, and it's a prototype of something that will be part of the Kickstarter. It's a holographic sticker. It's all shiny.
So cool. That's so cool.
It can go on your water bottle. It's waterproof, all that good stuff. Well, I'm going to do a number of things like that on the Kickstarter, and I want people to be able to pick which lineage they want to go down to get their reward. So if they want to get, if they like the snake lineage, then they can go down. If they like, are Slytherin or whatever, they really like that stuff, they can go down and get the snake stickers and pins and stuff like that. But if they like the dragon more, they can go down the dragon or whatever. But yeah, so hopefully, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, November we'll start a Kickstarter, and then about 9 months later, the book will launch. It is at a point where it's with my developmental editor. We've done all the major edits, so, when my developmental editor looks at this and goes, that character is garbage, get rid of them, or something like that. All of that really hard work is done. It's just them looking at it and going, like, this sentence is weird, change it, that word is overused, get rid of it, things like that. Okay. So, yeah, I'm very excited for it. I think that it's better than the first one, and it will wrap up Sanav's story completely. Okay. Well, I mean, not completely,
The title?
The title is The Last Dragon Master.
Okay. All right. I'm so excited about it. Now, back to Scion of the Dragon. You are giving away a physical copy to whoever, if the person who wins is in the United States, it's a physical copy. If they're outside of the United States, it's an ebook copy, wherever someone gets ebooks. So if you are watching this and you have not already entered, go to my account, The Introverted Bibliophile, and look back on Tuesday's post where you see CK's face, and you will be able to enter to win. It's easy to enter. All you have to do is follow both she and I, and then like the post and tag a friend. That's it. Super easy.
It's so pretty.
Benny loves it. He loves the book. He loves hearing me read to him because, of course, I have to do all the voices, right?
Of course.
I don't always remember what voice I used on what character, but, it's okay. So tell me, how can people connect with you online, and where can they get their hands on your book?
Yeah, so obviously I'm here on Instagram. I put up a lot of martial arts videos, both for martial artists and for authors. There's a link in my bio to two places you can get my book. One is to Amazon, because everybody trusts Amazon. The other is Ingram Spark, which is like the indie selling platform. It's slightly cheaper on Ingram Spark. At least the physical copy is cheaper on Ingram Spark, but the shipping time takes a little bit longer. It's slightly more expensive on Amazon, but Amazon is where you would be able to get the ebook from.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but I have some just for fun questions for you.
Okay.
I didn't prepare you for this, so these are
Indeed, I'm ready. Or not ready.
What is your favorite genre to read?
My favorite genre to read is dystopian, by far.
Okay. My daughter, that's totally her favorite genre too, so you guys would get along well.
I've got a manuscript coming for her then.
Okay. And I still need to get Allie's book for her about that's kind of set from the Book of Judges, because I think she would enjoy that.
That was a good one.
Are you reading a book right now? And if so, what is it?
I just finished the second book of the Titan's Nest series by T.D. Orrell, so I just finished Sigur's Roost, and it was phenomenal. The first book is my favorite. I'm really looking forward to the third one.
Okay. All right. And you might have already answered this, but what's a 5-star book that you've read recently, and why did you love it?
Okay. Well, 5-star book. Yeah, we'll just go with Titan's Nest. I love Titan's Nest because I thought it was, one of the things is I thought it was hilarious how he took romance tropes and put them in fantasy. So, like, it has nothing to do with romance, but the relationship between the main character and the dragon is so slow burn, it cracks me up. And the world intrigue is just phenomenal. Allie says lawless.
Okay.
That wasn't recent. I read that years ago.
Okay. That's all right. What is one book that you are embarrassed not to have read?
Oh my. I haven't read the Harry Potter series.
Okay. There's no shame in that. I have to tell you, I've never read any of the Bronte books, like none of Jane Austen's books, so don't feel bad. I mean, I feel like those are classics that anybody who loves historical romance should have read. I haven't. So I get it.
Good.
All right. What is your greatest fear?
Oh boy, we're getting deep now. My greatest fear. My greatest fear is definitely something happening to my dad and not being able to do anything about it.
Okay. That makes sense. That
makes sense.
I don't have either of my parents anymore, so yeah, that's definitely, like, for me, it's if something were to happen to my husband or my kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have a fear of snakes. So, I mean, I got bit by a baby rattlesnake back in 1994, and that was really hard to recover from. So it's not an irrational fear. It's totally rational.
We have a lot of copperheads where I live, so I have a healthy fear of snakes. I'm not particularly afraid of them. I would say of, like, the silly fears, I guess, is I really hate cockroaches. Like, I'm not necessarily afraid of them, but I will scream if they crawl on me.
Yeah, that bug crawling on you sensation is not a fun one to have. Okay, last question. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
My favorite guilty pleasure. Oh my goodness. That would have to be oatmeal cream pies. Okay. One, because I'm allergic to them, but I will eat a whole box if I have them.
Oh my goodness. And you're allergic.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a little scary. All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, for taking the time out. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to hear what you think of the ending.
Okay, I will be sure and let you know. And thank you to all of you who have watched or will be watching this interview later.
Thank
Be
you.
sure to be following CK so that you know when her next book comes out. And be sure to follow me so that you don't miss out on any upcoming faith and fiction chats. I have a good one coming next week, and I have a few scheduled in July, August, and September. So be sure to be following me. All right. Thanks again, CK. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Enjoy
Of
your
course.
weekend.
Yeah, you too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.